Gonna give a little disclaimer, like my content really is just for adult audiences only. There might be some strong language and yeah, adult audiences only. This is my commentary, my opinion, and this is going to be a little bit all over the place, but we're going to start off talking about how, particularly the last 5 years or so, I've seen a lot of what people would call influencers online talk up makes a man or woman high value. And this plays into gardening and homesteading because I believe that a lot of us find a lot of our value in places other than our salaries or our wages. And I wanted to tie that in at the end of this. But feeling hopeless is very common among, I mean, it's common among anybody of any income. So I don't want to make it sound like poor people have it worse, but I do think that when people say money doesn't make you happier, they don't know what it's like to really, truly struggle. And to a baseline, to a certain extent, money definitely does make you happier if you're honestly struggling to get by. Hey, Mr. Carey, thank you so much. How are you doing today, Mr. Carey? So this is something that gets under my skin a lot when I see people say, and a lot of these people, granted, are in higher income, I mean, higher cost of area, listen to me, higher cost of living areas. So I understand if you're living in California or some big city, you are going to need to make more money. But to look in the camera and know that thousands of people are watching you and to know what the medium income, average income is, and I think it's like somewhere around 40,000, 36,000 even, that there are probably going to be people watching you that don't meet your criteria of what makes somebody high value. And me, as a factory worker who is very glad to be back at work, I went back to work this last week. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Mr. Carey. I hope things get better for you sooner than later. I am doing better. I still have some issues with one of my side. I think I'm gonna be okay. I could work, 10-hour shifts, right? Like I can't if it was a hernia, it can't be that bad, right? So I hear a lot of this rhetoric online from man. It started off with men in particular, like just Pearly thing. I do not watch her content. I just happened to see years ago when I first joined TikTok, she was really big on there. And she first said, "Hi, Shannon, how are you doing tonight?" She said that a man had to make at least $80,000 to be high value. Of course, she followed that up with, like, that was Kevin Samuels. None of her ideas are original or her own, anyways. But it really grinded my gears because I know so many great men that don't make that much money, including men in my family, and we need those people are integral to all of society. And people are looking down on the jobs that really make all of society function on a daily basis. And we need people to work those jobs. We've all been brainwashed by the concept that some jobs are just for teenagers and it's okay to only pay a few bucks an hour for certain jobs. I think it's absolutely criminal that there's people out there working at the places that we frequent for 9, 10, $11 an hour, even $14 an hour. And to work that kind of job and live with that kind of wage and then to be looked down upon by people, it is something that I think should stop happening. And one of the ways it can stop happening is if less of us try to play that keeping up with the Joneses, because I think a lot of people looking in the camera saying that you aren't high value unless you make at least 80,000 a year aren't making 80,000 a year themselves because most people aren't, and that's fine. And that's why I wanted to be honest with my YouTube career that I am not a high income person, never have been. We have home educated going on three of our children for several years of each of their education, and we have made it work. Of course, I wish is how they keep more of us from gaining any wealth at all. And the less money you have, the more fees that get racked put on you, and the more debt you occur. And that's part of the issue, and why I also want to advocate for debt-free living, which I understand for a lot of people, like it's just not feasible at this point. But we can at least try to teach the next generation, our kids, to be as debt free as possible as they can. And that's one thing the Amish believe in, and I believe Mennonites too. Like they do not believe in taking on any debt. And that is a very smart thing to do. Like if you can't afford it, then you save up until you can afford it. Hi, Jonathan. How are you doing today? Villanueva. I like that name. So, as a factory worker, it seems like this is the internet is bringing more of this on. We're under a microscope even more. Our daily lives, if we choose to, are displayed, and even if they're not, we're looking at other people who are displaying theirs. And when we hear these things being said, I want to be somebody that says, hey, it's okay to make around $40,000 a year. It's okay to work what you feel like is probably too hard for the money that you make. Excuse me, as long as you work an honest job and you are doing something that helps all of society function, I don't think there's any shame in that. We need to stand up for each other and try to stop wage stagnation, which is the real problem here. Wages have stagnated. Meanwhile, everything else has, tripled and quadrupled and more, while the wages have not even doubled. And that's the real culprit. And they want to pin us against each other. It's the poor people on welfare that are the problem. It's not the poor people on welfare that are the problem. And anyways, I need to make sure I stay a little bit on my notes. We're all needed, and it's important if you know somebody that works, a thankless, crappy job, maybe you tell them that you appreciate them. You just one person in your life acknowledging that, like, hey, you do something that's valuable. Thank you, is enough to combat, these influencers that are talking into a camera for money, which I would like to do that for a job one day too. I just would never look down on people and know that the average income is half of what I'm saying people have to make, or else they are not high value. What is high value? What makes somebody high value? Because I myself, and I think most women would agree that I would rather have a husband that doesn't make a six-figure income, who is loyal and has some integrity and is devoted truly to his family than a man who, makes a lot of money and is gone all the time because he has all this money and this great, not that you can't have a great social life without all that money, but you know what I'm trying to say. He's not as devoted and attached to his family, and he just throws money at them because that's what he believes his role is just to provide. Not that all wealthy people are like that or that you have to choose either or, but a lot of us, if we sat and waited for that perfect man that made six figures and was a great family man, we'd waiting our whole lives. And if you want to have a family, that's not ideal. Hi, Daniel. How are you doing? I brought up just Pearly things, but like that's a horrible example because she's just a horrible person altogether. There have been plenty of people that I look up to. I don't really want to call out, I don't want to name their names, but people that I know they've stood up for immigrants. They themselves would say that wage stagnation is a problem. They themselves would say that late stage capitalism is a problem that we are all falling victims to. But the same people that will turn around and say you must make six figures, like, do they not understand that that's part of the and once again, I do understand that some people live in expensive cities but we don't all live in those cities. What is Jonathan Villanueva doing? Every job is important and loved by God. Hey, Yoder or Anna, how are you? I I should have told you that I was gonna go live, but I didn't know if I was going to for sure or not. But this is gonna be, really chatty. I don't have many notes written down. I kinda wanted to rant a little bit and get on here and say hi to everybody, and maybe we can talk about some other stuff. So this is also a reason why home ownership is so important, and they want to dissuade people from doing that, I believe, is because it is the number one way the average working person can climb up the economic ladder, or at least improve the quality of their life by getting a better house every few years. You gain equity, you can cash that out, get a nicer house if you choose to, or downsize and have less debt. And off-grid is attractive to people for that reason. They see it as an opportunity to pay less into the system, to have less debt overall. But it is so difficult, even if you are extremely handy, unless you are extremely handy, it is going to be so difficult to start any kind of off-grid lifestyle with less than six figures. In my opinion, if you are super duper handy, you could probably do it for half that for sure. But most of us aren't that handy, handy enough to build a structure. We were not, neither one of us could wrap our minds around the solar. We got solar generators that were really easy to just plug and go. If we were more electrician minded, we probably could have built a much better and cheaper, more efficient setup. So it's things like that. Like Um, Meng Stu, how are you today? I'm sorry, I'm probably not saying that correctly. So, as great as it sounds to be, off grid, it is challenging for most of us. And it's the kind of thing like most people that could afford to do it, like they're probably not doing it for the reasons that a lot of us are doing. Like, little story time. We got okay, we had like a $300 fee tax power bill for being chronically late. This was several years ago in Indiana. For being chronically late, we weren't shut off. We probably had some shut off notices, and they were like, once you're like chronically late, like you have a few notices in a row, then we make you pay a security deposit, even though you've been in your house for 5 fucking years. Like that's real life. That's what happened. And I remember writing a review. This is when I had Facebook, and I wrote a review to the energy company like, "This is ridiculous. We've never actually gotten shut off. So you're just making life harder for people who are obviously already struggling a little bit, right? Just tack on the fees even more. That's part of why we are struggling because we're always getting punished for being poor." And one of my friends, who is still a great friend to this day, hi, GMC, how are you? Thanks for coming tonight. I hope you stick around a little bit. I'm probably not going to be super interesting. Hi, Michael. How are you? Um, I'm sorry, and that is the number one way that get out, and homesteading is a pathway for that. And a lot of us living paycheck to paycheck, we simply don't when people are like, "Oh, just don't buy the coffee." What if you're already not buying your coffee out? A lot of us are sincerely living paycheck to paycheck. We have no extra money, and then you're gonna like give us extra fees. Oh yeah. And one of my dear friends was like, people can see that review you left on the power company. Like other people can see you complaining about getting that fee for being late, for being chronically late. And I was like, I don't care. I don't care if other people know we're poor. I'm home educating some great future members of society. I mean, they already are members of society, but like my kids are doing well. We don't ask for help from anybody. That's why we're struggling to pay our bills. I that year had to have sinus surgery. My husband had to borrow from his 401k to pay for it because a hole reopened in my sinus. And what are you going to do? Like just leave that hole open in your gum and your sinus? And Anna said, yes, we had that in Wisconsin. It was like 300 to turn it back on by missing a day. Oh, so it was, yeah, that is ridiculous. So you're already struggling to keep your bills afloat, and then you're gonna, it makes me so mad. Like if we really cared about people, if our politicians really cared about anything other than lining their own pockets and their insider trading and whatnot, like they would make sure that things like that didn't happen. And I know there has been certain laws put into place, like for overdraft fees, like they, want to make us feel like they do care sometimes, somewhat. The wool pulled over their eyes from I mean, we weren't taught about anything, and I try to inform my kids about debt and how serious it is, especially student loans. I only got $3,000 worth of student loans, and it snowballed into 10,000. Yes, it's my fault. Yes, I signed on the dotted line. I was barely 20 years old, and I sincerely didn't remember it. I didn't remember it because most of mine were paid, through government loans. And then 10 years later, the government took half of our tax return and was like, "You owe 10,000 student loans." Don't tell me they didn't do that on purpose. They didn't wait until it was like $10,000 with the interest. And once again, like I know, yeah, I did sign my name on the dotted line, but no other way could you ever get credit like that easily. Well, maybe a car. If you have proof of income, cars are easy to buy and they can often be a big ripoff too. Used cars, especially any car and a new one too. But these are things that like we were just kind of thrown to the wolves. And yeah, in the 90s when I was growing up in this like great economy, and maybe you can throw your kids to the wolves in an economy like that, but we can no longer do that anymore. We have to be scrupulous. We have to be so careful with every single cent we spend. And Skipper, oh, well, we don't really have any 401ks anymore. Stefano, hi, how are you doing? And I did think that when we sold our last few properties, like I thought it'd be nice to travel, but my kids, we have teenagers, they don't want to do that. You know what I mean? But like honestly, I would like to do that, but they need more stable, they need to hang out with their friends and experience their life with their peer group at that age and have more of a foundation. So, okay, I'm trying so hard not to say so. I believe I've been better about it. This is an example. I don't mean to offend anybody, but like So many of us are told to do it right, to wait until we're 30s in our 30s, to wait until we're established, to wait until we've had our college degree and we've had our job. And I've seen a few people do that, and then they spend the money that they did save doing everything the right way on IVF to have a child or two, which I'm sure they don't regret doing. I'm just saying, like, these choices are tough. And there's a lot of different outcomes that can happen to people when you try to, like, dictate, like, what they should do with their lives, and I like that my life worked out this way. I like that I had 3 kids, and, technically, I had kids as a teenager in my 20s and my 30s, I can say that. I had a kid at 19, 22, and 30. But anyways, I had my kids relatively young, and I went back into the workforce. I don't feel as burnt out as I believe some people are, and I noticed because I have a family, and gosh, I say this because once again, I don't wanna offend anybody or hurt anybody's heart that wants the same thing and, like, doesn't, but I noticed that the people that don't have a family at home do tend to quit the factory job a lot easier, a lot quicker, and this is part of why we need to cultivate stronger relationships and get, particularly young men off of the screen, and women too, women off the screen with the, social media and, their filters and but what what's happening particularly with the adult media is like it's taking away from a lot of personal relationships that men should be having with the So, who is going to be more high value in a true crisis? With things going on in the world right now, I'm sure you guys have heard what Trump decided to do in Iran like 6 hours ago. It was absolutely horrible. Like, we were always pointing the finger at the left, saying they were going to start World War III, and now here we are. He's like, hmm. And who's going to be more valuable in times of the grid going down? Is it going to be the person with a six-figure bank account that, like, they might have some grit in them too? They might have some good skills, but you know what I'm trying to say here. Is it going to be the city folk that concentrated on having $80,000 income, or the people like me in the country and can grow literally almost anything you give me the seeds for? And that took years of dedication and work too. And I do believe that people are wising up to, like, these skills are valuable. But the people that are talking about how you're not a high value person until and unless you make X amount of money seem to not be taking a lot into consideration. Evo, no, I am not. I am one quarter Colombian. My kids are part Mexican. My husband is part Mexican. So I am some Mexican, Colombian, a bunch of other stuff mixed in with my babies. So, another thing about working in a factory that just makes me, like, forever grateful for the rest of my life, I could win the lottery tomorrow. I don't believe I could ever be as far gone as some of these rich people because everybody wants to say things like Jeff Bezos worked his way from the ground up. He didn't really, okay? He borrowed six figures from his mommy and daddy. They had money, he had money. Most people that we know of today that, like, we consider these self-made, super ultra wealthy, rich people, they had a platform. They It's not equal opportunity for all of us, okay? Like, when you wanna compare yourself to these people. I'm sorry, maybe that's not the right word to say. Maybe it was equal opportunity, but there's another word that's on the tip of my tongue that I should have said. Jay Collins, hi, how are you doing? Is that a monarch butterfly in your picture? So that was all of my notes. I just wanted to have, like, something to put on my title, and I will try to timestamp this. I'm gonna do that with my lives from now on. I'm gonna try to timestamp them for anybody that might be interested in, like, popping in to see if there's a subject or two or more that, like, you're interested in, but you don't wanna hear me talk for an hour or two because I cannot blame you. I love monarch butterflies. Have you ever raised one from a chrysalis? Jay Collins, like, have you ever, is it called hatching one? I did that a few times. And the monarch butterflies, chrysalises, if you guys have never seen one, you should look it up. They literally look like jewels. And you see things like that glistening in the sun. I don't see how anybody couldn't believe in God. And sacred geometry, the design that's in nature, the way that certain patterns, shapes are, like, favored by nature is really interesting to me. And I don't believe that that happened because of a big bang in the sky. I think it all was an accident. I don't believe that at all. Well, if you ever get the chance to, Jay Collins, if you're interested in that, it is really neat. One time I had an eastern swallowtail butterfly that I knew it wasn't gonna make it because it was getting ready to freeze, like, the chrysalis was outside, and I brought it inside, and I still have footage from that. It's on an old memory card, but one day I'll get around to making more videos. I always tell myself, like, especially if I get monetized, like, I have so much footage saved from when we were off grid, when we were looking for properties off grid in particular, and I think it would be fun, just to document it, if anything, from, like, my kids too. Anna said I'm sorry, I should say Yoder. I love sacred geometry. I found it enhanced my faith in God. Me too, definitely. And I don't think I was ever an atheist. I just definitely had a lot of periods in my life where I felt very hopeless. And I wrote that earlier, like it's common to feel hopeless when you're struggling financially, especially. And it makes me really sad to think about how many people that are losing their potential and missing out on life because they feel hopeless. I think that's one of the worst feelings that you could feel. Okay, thank you for for moderators. It's so nice to have moderators. Um, I Okay, so there's some things I didn't say in my last video that I wanted to make clear that I don't know, like probably not that many people are going to be watching 22 minutes into this video, but I didn't say like I don't plan on making a lot of Titus content, and I privated my videos before that GoFundMe crap because I just already felt like, I looked at my lives. I had 36, and I believe 12 of them were involving Titus, and I don't want to be muddying the waters either. I don't want to be making constant content, and I know I'm just as interested as any of you in, like, what is actually going on. So, I don't mean to make it sound like I'm too good. I don't know this chick or something like that. It's not like that at all. It's just that I definitely don't wanna make a channel or all of my content surrounding involving him. I think there is a lot to be said. There needs to be somebody that, like, follows that actually reacts to his content that, maybe isn't afraid of getting taken down because they're gonna copyright it because I saw Titus Morris say this, you guys. Titus Morris said, "Air conditioning causes SIDS." He said this in a video. God leads me to things. I'm not just saying that. I'm not saying that mocking anybody. I really do believe God, the higher spirit, whatever you call it, led me to this video. Because sometimes I just look up Titus Morse and then usually I put today or last week to see recent happenings, and sometimes I don't. I just let it free flow. And I just happened to click on this video where it's him and the kids. Thank you, Mr. Carey. And, Stephanie videoing it, and he says, in particular, it's cold air, but it's air conditioning, and then he's like, "Oh, it's like these babies in air conditioning, and I feel cold, and they're not in that many clothes." Like, people don't know how to keep their babies warm, and he legit said Titus Morris said, "Air conditioning and cold air causes babies to have SIDS." And of course, there was a comment. I mean, just imagine losing a child that way and hearing somebody like him say something like that. He should not be giving any medical advice. For somebody like him to have something called a house of prayer, he said SIDS happens because of air conditioning. I took a clip of it. I just don't want to make that kind of content on this channel because like I do want to try to build this up and be more oh my gosh, I'm like shivering. The air conditioning just kicked on and I am so cold. I don't I don't want this to get taken down that easily. But at the same time, if this ever did get taken down, just look at I'll make a channel with a very similar name. And thank you, Jay Collins. Jay Collins said, I agree. So yeah, the House of Health is such a joke. And I just think if I can just click on a random video and see such egregious misinformation, such bad misinformation that when I looked it up, it's actually the opposite. There hasn't ever been anything with cold linked to it, but they have linked babies being too hot to it. Seriously, this was on the Mayo Clinic website. So he is so ridiculous. Anybody that takes anything he says seriously about health needs to take a step back. Would you believe anything anybody why does anybody believe him? And I am not wrong, okay? I know I'm not wrong about this. If a woman said that, it'd be easier to see. It'd be easier to see because we haven't had so many women be such straight up lying scammers to us. Now, a man sitting there preaching to you, asking for money, that's very commonplace. That's not going to shock the system as much. Yoder said cold air helps and yucky air like croup. Yeah, for yeah, croup and such. I hope next week you look into laminin across in human cells. What is that exactly? Can you expound on that a little bit more? Is that like something scientists are doing now? Some creepy new thing? Laminin. I am gonna re-listen to this, so I'll look that up if you don't say anything else about it. So, yeah, I wanted to say that on top of, his past, which I am not committing slander when I talk about any of this stuff, especially when it's things that, like, you can take a clip of and say, "He said this." There's no slandering going on. I don't walk up and down their street. I don't stalk them. And I guess I read in a comment that, like, they had Aaron come to be a witness for Titus in that one EPO case, but then while Aaron was there, Stephanie put an EPO on Aaron. Is that correct? Did you guys see that too? Was I reading that right? Because I think I was on a break at work at my job because I work. And it's a really good feeling to be productive and know I made X amount of dollars today, and I don't have to go begging for it. I don't have to rely on other people for it. I don't have to go to court, to for a stepping stone in my life for like literally like 2, 3 different things. Other than, okay, Titus Morris said air conditioning, air conditioning. Air conditioning and cold air is why there's an increase in SIDS or causes some SIDS. Because he's all like, and he made a good point after that by saying, by not having air conditioning, I'm forced to go out in the, outside air more because often it's hotter in this metal trailer than it is outside. Good point. I've been there off grid, no air conditioning. Totally understand. Yeah, it can be like 5 degrees hotter, especially if you've got a metal roof. And okay, I shouldn't say most. A lot of people can't tolerate that, especially younger children. And instead of being like PSA, like if you do live off grid, like you shouldn't have children like 3 or under. They can't regulate their body temperature as easily, as well as elderly people. Not everybody is this spry. I don't know what else is in your system other than stinging nettles, supposedly, allegedly, bony young man with a crap ton of energy like you, Titus. And um okay. So, yeah, he said that. I'm sure I could find like a ton of other stuff. I work, like I keep saying, and I don't have a strong enough interest to watch hours of tennis every day. But it would be neat if maybe like a group of us could get together and be like, you review this channel, I'll review that channel, and like just egregious medical misinformation, things that are like completely off the wall like that. Like somebody needs to start making a compilation and it would be I don't wanna sound like Aaron Atz. It wouldn't be like a dream come true or anything, but it would be a pleasure of mine to, if it ever got to that point, I would look at it as I was God's chosen one to sit in the Casey County Courthouse and tell show the evidence of the egregious medical misinformation he spreads and why I felt people should be warned about his past and the crazy shit he says before they spend any time visiting him or any money on him or donating to him. They still have the goods flowing in. They still get packages. It doesn't look like as much. They're hurting, obviously, and that made me happy. It made me glad to see that they're hurting so bad they had to start another GoFundMe because it seems like when they start one, they get an influx of donations at first, and they're like, "Okay, we need a little chunk of money. Let's start another GoFundMe," because that's not something a ministry would do, right? Start a fifth GoFundMe to fund their lives when they've spent other people's hard-earned money, hundreds of thousands of dollars to have a shell of a structure. That's never gonna be worth what they even put into it because he didn't put electricity into it, so that building is never gonna be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars that they put into it. It's so ridiculous, and I almost would like to know, I wonder if there is a reason beyond them running out of money, and but I don't know why they wouldn't express that to save face, because them just running out of money, like, this should be a case study. There's gonna be a book like this is like one of those books they have in sociology courses. They're gonna be in a book like this one day because it's like a compilation of stories, you know? It's like things that have happened in past 25, 50 years from now, there's gonna be, like, examples of how it is kind of unprecedented. Who else has basically cosplayed being an Amish person to cause people to become enthralled with him and his lifestyle, and then do this? Like, I know it's happened before that ministers raise a bunch of money, ask for money from people in their congregation over and over and over and over and over and over for themselves, not to help anybody else, not even any of the, like, dozens of stray dogs that come wandering up on their property. Yoder, his solar can pull air conditioner wattage. What's wrong with air conditioning? Is a hot, cold, in and out, no different than winter. He's just I think he's oppositional defiant disorder, in my opinion, supposedly, allegedly, this is just my opinion. I think he's one of those people that's just defiant, you know, and because most people have air conditioning, he's gonna talk about how he's better than you because he doesn't have conditioning, and what was really a way to just escape and go be his own problem and do what he wanted to animals on his own piece of land and, the cheapest way possible. That's what that was. It was a way to be a lazy bum, in my opinion. It wasn't like he's not like some clever person living as frugally as possible, like we were led to believe in Peter Santinello. He has no ID, right? You could get married to Stephanie with no ID. He has no birth certificate, no ID, or whatever they said on Peter Santinello. Jay Collins, nobody is asking why his brother hasn't been over helping them build his house of prayers. Brother helps build homes, doesn't live that far. I did not know that, Jay Collins. Are any of his siblings ever involved in any of his things? I believe when I first started to watch his videos, like a year, was in a cave and the girl like perched upon this cave wall behind him. 'Cause people were saying, "She's so uncomfortable," you know, how people are in comments. It was just one of those things, I think, you know, kids, she's just being a kid, like, just wanted to, like, sit in a cool spot. Anyways, people said that was his sister. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Was his sister ever in any videos, and would she have been, like, younger than him, like, much younger than him? Like, she looked like a teenager, and I did not know that at all, Jay Collins, and Yoder said, "Yes, his brother looks normal and is married, seems happy and all." I also think is you think his brother is battling CPS allegedly, supposedly, Yoder, or are you talking about it's them battling CPS? I just wanna make sure. Yeah, and to be clear, like, as much fun as I have, like, talking about it, like, it is my number one priority when I've said from the beginning, the warning people, vulnerable children, animals, all vulnerable beings need to be warned. People that have them under their care need to know because that's the kind of person, I hate to say this, but like I'm a kind of mom. I watch my kids like a hawk. I don't leave them alone with anybody. Like my kids have never been left alone with anybody besides their dad, grandparent, aunt, and I just I hate even like putting this out there and saying these speaking these words, but I could see somebody having a vulnerable person and leaving them like in Titus's presence, being like not knowing his past. Oh, like no, he of all people wouldn't do this, and that's why people have this misconception. We've all been proven wrong by that, right? And I know I say a lot of stuff about Amish people, like, I can't stress it enough. I look at them like they're just like everybody else. I do not think that they're all bad people. I do not think they're all molesting their children. I do not think that at all. I've seen people that left and escaped, you would call it, you know, were shunned, and but they would still like make a reconnection with their family later, and they weren't hurt or abused in any way. Like it happens. They do have good families there. And I don't know, is it more common in the Amish? Are there stronger family units there because of their lifestyle and the way that they live? Because I feel once again, this ties into being low income, being poor. It is beneficial when it comes to marriage. I know that's like a hot take, but it's true. When you like actually really truly need each other and you lean on each other in all those ways in life, and like you're a lot less likely to walk away, go live in, your own mansions, and you don't grow apart. That's not for everybody. That's not to say it's going to happen with everybody. And you should struggle love is a good thing. And I'm just saying, like a lot of us, we're never going to make a lot of money, and just need to normalize it, especially now with everything going on in the world. No, the air conditioning making up excuses. Um, It's been a good quiet week, no drama from any of them, but the watch is important to not be led astray. I'd want to know if I were there innocently. I'd be thankful someone told me. Yeah, I haven't looked at the Google Maps lately, but I always hope when I do look at it that somebody's like made a review. I don't want to use any of my accounts to do it. Hi, Jamie. Well, I already talked about my notes at the beginning, talking about rambling about online influencers, talking about what makes a high value man or woman, and now we're talking about a bunch of other stuff. And if you aren't privy to my channel, you probably won't be interested in it, honestly. Not to say you can't stick around. And Yoder said, in Amish and Mennonites, crimes like this aren't handled legally, but they almost 100% send them off to inpatient Christian mental health and keep them there until counseling releases them. Um, are you saying hi to me? Yes, I said hi to you. I believe I did. Or hi if I did not. Ron, hi. I am from the USA. Are you asking me? I'm in Kentucky. I was born here. I've lived in a few other states. So, when I was rewatching the court footage of Titus, the lawyer who's interrogating, like, whatever, cross-examining him, uh, you know, he's starts reading off the statute for bestiality. And the other lawyer's like, "Oh, whoa, wait, we don't need this in here. We don't need this." And it's like that really like I think somebody could probably dig up that proof of that fire, right? The sawmill fire. Like, can't somebody do more about it? And it's like that lawyer was getting there because he kept trying to get him to say what year it was that he did it last. And basically, long story short, he admitted to a firefighter that he believed that's why a fire occurred because of what he was doing with animals. And I know I'm like a broken record, but it just never gets old to me when I think about it. When I think about how he said it's just like showering at the YMCA, how he was laughing about circumcising himself in front of a 12-year-old. And the more I thought about it, uh, okay, now I'm going off the rails kind of. Now maybe I should like shut this down and like start another live that I can like keep because I do think there's a lot of other suppressed SE-actual things going on with Titus. That is just my opinion, allegedly, supposedly, but the court footage talks about how he was 2 or 3 months away, supposedly, if I'm doing the math right, when he had a encounter with an adult, and that's part of what his parents reported him. And this adult also abused other kids. And the lawyer made a good point. Like, there's been several kids in this household who have been molested under the care of Randy and Brenda Morris. Like, why would we let any kids? Why? He said it's not a matter of if, but these kids are going to have it happen to them. That's what this lawyer said in the court footage, guys. Like, this is what people need to see for themselves, and like it will click. Like, yeah, like this is very serious things that you don't just repent. You don't just say, I'm sorry, God. That's not how it works, especially when you're laughing about it and comparing it to being in the YMCA. Hey, Dory, how are you? Well, I already talked about what the title was, how there's a lot of people online who claim basically you're not a high value person unless you make at least like 80 to $100,000 a year. What makes you high value, especially in these times when gosh, I hate to say that, another world war is upon us. Don't shut it down, it's fine, stop questioning yourself. I just don't want people to think that, like, I'm, a boo if you're asking me, I'm in Kentucky in the US. Google reviews would be a great tool to warn people if they are not going to put him in the registry. Jay Collins, yes, I agree, because the House of Prayer is on there. They've got their business. House of Prayer, I didn't mean to say it like that. And, Yoder, Oh my god, Carrie, one of Henson's latest posts is Titus may get hurt in the road. Yeah, see, okay, I'm not saying I was right, I'm just saying this is why I backed off of, like, Henson when he started last year, whatever, as, like, this person I've been around people who are in recovery, and I really don't believe are using substances anymore. But once somebody has used so many substances for so long, it affects the way they act still. That's all I'm gonna say about it. And I really like pray hard for his wife and his kids and him. Mm. It's another thing that's, like, muddying the waters. If somebody's like, "What's going on with Titus? I saw the comments in Peter Santanella's video, and I wanna learn more about it, so I'm gonna YouTube Titus Morris," and, then a dozen one of these things pop up and, like, you know him lip syncing and stuff half the time, like, it's just not productive, and I get it, like, we all wanna get more subs, you don't make a YouTube channel not get any views and not get any subs, but, eh, he's wild way too much. Aren't you supposed to mellow out and I don't wanna call him an old man because I don't think he's that old, he's, like, in his 50s, right? Aren't you supposed to, like, mellow out the older you get? Oh god, that comments. Yep, love does not exist for the poor. Well, well, I think so. Yeah, I think true love is something that develops over time through bonding, through experiences, like that fleeting feeling we call love isn't like real, genuine love that when we see an old couple that's been married for 50 years, we go, oh, that's so sweet. That's not what they have, not to say that they don't ever feel butterflies for each other. But yeah, it's something like some people say marriage is a construct, which I think is kind of funny. I think there's always been people who quote unquote fell in love and decided to live a life together and did it because they liked it. Like I do understand both sides of like everything. Mostly. Yoder, my middle son, is an official junior firefighter now. Oh, that is so neat, Mr. Carey. How cool. He's in his 40s? Okay. Okay. Well, he's not as old as I thought he was. For some reason, I thought he was, like, was older than Aaron. Lip syncing would have done that for YouTube. And, yeah, I don't he really, like, is I don't wanna say anything else about him, but the last few things I looked at with Aaron, it looked like he's still doing the same thing where it's, like, hard to follow, once again, he's telling me I need to have a timeline, but, like, each one of his videos is like, "Bleh," and you're like, "What was that? What's that?" And I don't watch every single one of his videos, so if there's anything, like, that really pops off, I just assume, like, somebody's gonna tell me about it or it's gonna get brought up. Last thing Henson said to me was, "Oh, by the way, Aaron told me Titus and Aaron are investigating you," meaning me. I think he may have given up or there's a bigger plan they all got unraveling. Yeah, see, okay, I don't know why Aaron said, "You don't know him in real life. You sure have a lot to say." Or he said, "You sure have a lot to say for somebody who doesn't know him in real life and has never been here." What does that have to do with anything? Unless there there's something else going on, like I keep saying, and it doesn't make sense to me that he's accusing Titus of offing somebody at the same time that YouTube the more you get talked about on YouTube, the more you're gonna be in the algorithm. So that saying, like, even bad news is good news, I'm butchering it, but you know what I mean? Like, it's good for you to get talked about in the press. Even if it's a bad rumor, it will make you more money in the end. And I almost wonder, is that, like, their strategy right now? They're just trying to get as much out there as possible, and the people will see that, yeah, this is and I am not saying what I believe when it comes to that. Not God, I don't know. I'm not saying that Aaron is wrong about that. I'm saying he's wrong about how he's going about it for sure. And, going to be a witness for somebody in court, and then you're gonna, like, turn around and accuse them of offing a young adult, like, it's just I don't know what to believe with him. And what is there to investigate? We're not the ones with the background of taking advantage of innocent beings and animals. Whatever they could dig up about me, I could unprivate YouTube videos from 6 years ago where I'm talking about it, I guarantee it. I have nothing I haven't already shared online. there's just things that, like, yeah, I'm not, like, I don't wanna share right now on this channel about my past, but I'm not trying to lead a ministry either, you know what I mean? I never took advantage of anybody. I yeah, anyways, it's publicity either way. Jay Collins, yes, exactly. Hola hermosa, thank you, Ruben. You're in Uruguay. I'm probably saying that way different than what you guys say down there. That is neat. Brocha do both. I used to lip sync, but karaoke helps out actually get better at singing. Yes. Oh, yeah. No, actually, karaokeing, that's really cool and stuff. Like, it's, I don't think there's anything wrong with that in like TikToks and stuff. It's how this guy has a channel where he's trying to bring awareness. That's, I should have clarified that because Mr. Carey sings on his channel. It's like when you're trying to like bring awareness to what's happened to children and animals, and then you're like putting on a show. And I know I'm sitting here like laughing. Carrie, you must be so proud. I'd be wonderful. Even the corner, Mr. Brown invited me to tour the morgue. Weird, I know, but to me it's peace and yucky job, but honorable. Yoder, yes, exactly. We all need each other. I looked into being a mortician, and when I saw how much they made, I was like, that's not enough money to be handling, in my opinion, because I do think it's a very honorable thing. And I thought that I might be a good person to do that. But yeah, it's like when I saw they make like around 70,000 a year, I'm like, wow, you think you would make more. Even the people that are like at the top of the funeral home, they really don't make, and the funerals cost so much. You just think they would make more, you know? And I wanted to be like a green burial person. Like of course you'd have to learn how to embalm with the chemicals, but I really believe that we should start, like, just burying us, like, straight in the ground more and stop with the chemicals and the overpriced crap and all this stuff that just gets into our groundwater anyways and contaminates it. Yoder, thank you, and it sounds weird, but when you explain it, I understand, Mr. Carey said. Yeah, I bet you are proud. He said, "I am proud." I don't know what you're talking about, guy in the comments. Jay Collins said, "I agree. Thank you." It's always so nice to see that. It's always so nice to see somebody agrees with me and to be validated like that. And once again, like I think anybody that watches me on a regular basis, I hope you understand. I don't think everybody has to agree with me or should agree with me. And that's part of the beauty of America and just having the internet and being able to voice our opinions is we all need each other to keep us in check. And like the pendulum's gonna keep swinging left, right, and, it swings way too far, and that's what's been going on lately, I feel like. It's just swinging too far when it goes one way or the other, and things are off balance. Maybe it's like the magnetic field and the Earth is changing, things are just awry, and to give some hope, I really do feel like gardening, which finally started my garden this past week. We ordered compost, and I planted cucumbers and zucchini mostly in straight compost, which I've never done before. So fingers crossed, if they don't sprout soon, I'm going to mix some topsoil in with it and try again. But I've got uh, some other herbs and flowers started too, and some other beds. Really exciting time of year. It's still not too late. Um, lucky is someone you want to call adoptive mom. What are you? Oh, I missed something. Yoder said, "Yes." Henson yelled at Aaron and said, "You didn't call Mr. Brown." Laugh out loud, so I did. Months later, we still talk online, and he gave me an exact explanation of how. Oh, oh, that's why you went because of your daughter who passed. I hope that helped for some closure. Yeah, Caitlin Doherty, is that her name? Ask a Mortician here on YouTube. She does a great job, like talking about the process and other cultures, traditions. Hi, Shata the T. How are you doing tonight? And she really helped me when it came to grieving for people, just being more open with that process. And I'm sorry again for your loss, Anna. Mr. Carey said, "Hey, Shaw." I don't know. A guy that comments, are you just trolling, aren't you? Because every single one of your comments, I'm like lost, man. Nicknamer Mama Lucky, Mr. Carey said, "Good. Shaw is doing good," he said. Yeah, I say he, I don't know for sure. "I need a cup of flour, Lucky," Mr. Carey said. Joking, Mr. Carey said. "A diamond in the six." Hello, hey, thank you for stopping. I'm sure you're gonna like it. Thank you for liking. Yoder, it did. He said the yes um are the last to go with the eyes are the last to go with the ears. So as she lay there, we talked eye contact. This isn't for pity, it's just the most honest out of Henson Creek is all. No, it's okay. There's no such thing as trauma dumping here. I think that when you feel safe to talk about something, you should, and that's, like, how we process things. And not to toot my own horn, but I have a lot of people that, like, open up to me, so if you feel comfortable sharing something with me, if you wanna email me, like, I keep everything private and just ever since I was a little girl, like, people that weren't, like, friends with me would, like, come up to me and, like, open up to me about their parents getting divorced and stuff like that, and I I sometimes I think I would be a good therapist. I wanna go back to school soon, but I don't think I could go back for as long as the schooling it would take to be something like clinical, like a therapist. Um, I gotta say myself first, Mr. Carey said. Hi, Daniel. How are you doing? This is just gonna be real all over the place. What should we talk about now? I was having fun being kind of gossipy, and I don't want every single one of my lives to be talking about them though. Diamond, I was talking earlier about how I saw this video. It was about a year old where Titus Morris said, "Oh gosh, trigger warning. I don't want to bring up something that's going to like, this is about sudden infant unaliving." Titus Morris said that air conditioning causes SIDS. And I found that in a video of his. And it's just like number 101 reason why he shouldn't be listened to by anybody for any kind of advice, especially medical. And he's got this House of prayer. I'm sorry, House of health, he's calling it now, right? I think I said prayer earlier, but I've heard that, um well, Jackson, we're just talking right now. I already talked about what was in the title. Sorry about that. I know maybe what should I make my should I maybe I should just have the title that just says, like, Kentucky is live so people aren't I almost feel bad people, like, waste their time to come in here and ask what's going on if they aren't, like, interested in the first place. It's just group chat, really, friendship talk. Yes, Yoder, thank you. That's a good way to put it. Yoder, campfire night talk. Yes. I am gonna be doing some lives outside once more things start sprouting. I want to have some lives in the garden. I don't know if any of you are like completely new to gardening, interested in any like new gardener content. Like if you had literally never planted anything before, like here's how to do it, step one, two, three, whatever. One of my One of my kids' friends' moms was over here earlier and is interested in gardening, and, it just made me realize, like, you know, like, we need some, like, real basic stuff. Jackson Santana said, "I'm Brazilian, I just found you." There's lots of people that find me from Brazil, it seems like. On the weekends especially, there's a lot of Brazilian action. That's nice. My grandma is from Colombia, so I'm gonna say to everybody from South or Central America. Diamond, yeah, I don't even watch his or Aaron's videos no more. No, I don't blame you. Yeah, Aaron seems to be like on repeat. I don't know. Maybe one day he'll say something interesting. Oh, another thing about Aaron talking about like how he heard them making out or whatever. Like, does a 50-year-old man and he knew this woman was married and they're starting this ministry and he's filming and everything. I just think that speaks a lot to his character that that was even a thing. I've lost friendships because two of my friends were cheating on their husbands, and I couldn't stick around for that. If you're cheating on your spouse, I'm not gonna be friends with you. If you're gonna use me as an excuse to go cheat on your spouse, I'm really not gonna be friends with you. That's when I drew the line, like, it was already super uncomfortable, and once they're like, "I'm gonna say I'm at your house, okay?" I'm like, "I'm going to his house, though." I'm like, "Okay, I'm never gonna speak to you ever again, because I just think that's so horrible, and it really is, like, the sanctity of marriage is important, and you honor that by not just honoring your own, you know what I mean? You honor that when you are respectful to somebody you know is, somebody else's spouse and whatnot, and all these other ways, right? By just being a respectful sometimes Monday through Friday, but usually we work 4 tens. If you're talking to me, I'm probably if we did pick a Sunday night would be the only night that I'm, like, guaranteed not to work, that I could be like, "We're definitely doing this every week," which I think would be a nice commitment to make, because it makes me feel bad when I go over a week without uploading or anything. I just ignore them when they pop up. I'm not subscribed to either of them. Yeah, I go looking for them sometimes still. But good for you. Mr. Carey never cheated on my husband, been married to a female nearly 26 years. You are so silly. Aaron's very shady, it seems like Diamond said. I know that was a joke, Mr. Carey. Everybody, Mr. Carey said that was a joke. Yeah, Aaron seems to not have much going on in his life besides this drama, and it's hard for me to discern. So I don't want to make anybody feel bad. Like, yeah, when you're 17 years old, you get taken advantage of by an older person. That's horrible. But like one of these incidences with Titus and an older person, he was like literally 2 months away from turning 18, and it was a male. Do you guys see where I'm going with this? Allegedly, supposedly, there's a lot of exsexual oppression going on here, in my opinion. Possibly, and this is in the court footage. I'm not making this up. This isn't slander. This was like a publicly released, documented court hearing where they're talking about, and this is CPS paperwork, the lawyer, I don't know, like 50 pages of family. It is awful, and it makes me sad for him. It makes me sad for that child that was Titus, and it's inexcusable, though. What he's done since then is still inexcusable. But when I heard that, and I could be wrong, I'm pretty sure I'm right. He was definitely 17, and they said like what month it was and what his birthday was and everything. And like, okay, like I think that age gaps when you're that young are wrong. I don't believe in it at all. I'm just saying, like, he was 17 going on 18 with a male. And then he wants to go and tell everybody how to dress. This is so supposedly, allegedly typical. And like somebody else mentioned this, and I'm not going there when it comes to Aaron and the same kind of supposedly oppression, maybe suppression of something deep down inside. It's 2025. Just be yourself, you know? And how many times have we heard this? There was a Christian rock band singer that it just came out recently. You guys probably know what I'm talking about. DC Talks was a band he was in, and like the most recent band he's in now, I don't know the name, but it came out he's this sexual predator, particularly on men. And like, this is somebody who's probably like completely against being gay and eh, as homophobic as it gets, and the people that are like that tend to be the ones who are, in my opinion, after almost 40 years on this earth, when a man just won't get off his soapbox about everybody else's sexuality, you know. Yeah, look at the lead singer, the black man, he had somebody come out and then a bunch of people came out. It was one of those incidences where it's like undeniable. He's a creep. If I find someone as loyal as I am, I'll marry them. Until then, I'm staying single. Well, guy that comments, if you want to get married, I really hope you find that because it is worth it whenever good luck, fellow Earthlings. Are you saying that as another world war is upon us? Okay. Mr. Carey, you're kind of strict, but that's okay. It's probably good to be that way. But yeah, marriage is definitely worth it if you find the right person, but it's really sad when people waste years of their life on the wrong people. Yoder, Titus called me once, and if you find somebody who gives you any hint of not being loyal and you're a loyal person, yes, drop them at the first red flag. Like, don't stay with a cheater. Somebody like betrays you in any way, makes you feel like you can't trust them. They're not honest. Don't stick with them. Titus called me once. That was annoying, I suppose, because it triggered a stalker in me. But he tried to preach to me and I interrupted him and said, "Sorry, but you're not my leader." Good, Yoder. Yeah, that's what they're always like saying, like, call him. And I noticed that, like, I just picture that in my head every time he's like, "Let me talk to you about God, my hypnotic voice." I have no interest. If I want to see that, I'll just like watch one of his YouTube videos. And when I make fun of his singing, it's because I really do feel like he's not sincere. And like he's just not sincere. He's not singing like from his chest. He's not singing from his heart. He's not singing like A man who's being sincere sings, in my opinion. That's why I make fun of it, and then I kind of feel bad thanks, Yoder. Sometimes I feel bad because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, I don't want anybody who does sing like that," but then I'm like, I've been to church enough to know I've never like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he sings like a child, supposedly, allegedly. Is this slander? Is this gonna get their income? If little old me is restricting their income, their way of life, then I'm doing my job well because that's what I was hoping that people would stop giving their hard-earned money to somebody because they think he's gonna lead the way, a new generation, gonna give them the way to Christ because he's so pure of heart when he is probably the most impure of heart person I've seen, like, on the internet in a long freaking time. And whenever anybody brings up, like, it one of his recent videos, I did make a live that I privated, but it was like the sin and consequence. Yeah, sin and consequence. It's just it's so obvious. Like, in my opinion, he doesn't really feel bad. In my opinion, a man that really sincerely felt bad for the innocence that he stole wouldn't be putting on a show. He would probably be, like, crying about it more. I know wasn't there a video where Aaron was crying about Titus effing horses? Is that what I gathered from that? It was one of those things, once again, like, I couldn't I'm kinda ADD if you guys can't if you haven't picked up on it yet. I think I'm probably not very typical. I think I'm neurologically atypical, and I haven't been diagnosed with anything, but, like, 3 kids diagnosed on the spectrum. I don't think the apple falls far from the tree, and I think that's one reason why I'm good at going live because I can say, this is like one time when me being like all over the place is a good thing, but I also completely understand. And I listen to other people that do lives like this too, but I completely understand why somebody might be turned off by it. I'm just glad I don't got kids with any of my exes. It'd be a curse in my bloodline. Guy that comments, yes, and controlling your fertility is so smart. Way too many people are not doing that, and we got pregnant on accident the first time. I lucked out. My husband's a good person I actually ended up wanting to be with. And, people kept telling me to abortion my baby because I wasn't with his dad. I mean, I had a preacher's daughter telling me to do that. I'm not kidding. Preacher's daughter. And we were, like, pretty good friends, had our first job together. I was really taken aback by her telling me that. And then, look at us now. We've been married for 15 years. We had the baby. He's 18 now, and we've been married for 15 years. So, even if, it starts off not ideal, like, you can still have hope. And, I'm pro-life myself. I do believe in a woman's choice. That's one of those things I'm a centrist on. I can't take a woman's choice away completely in every way. I wouldn't want to do that personally. And everything going on in the world kind of shows why that can be I feel like they're really trying to create a lot of havoc and divide and conquer. If you guys aren't aware, there was a woman recently who was brain dead but kept alive long enough for her fetus to grow inside of her baby. It was a baby, but she was only 6 weeks along when she first had the blood clots that rendered her brain dead. And her family didn't want that. And I'm unsure what her wishes were, but it was because of recent laws, and I feel like it's part of the plan. I feel like okay, now we're getting into, like, really serious stuff. They they shoved it in our face as, like, a form of birth control and made a lot of us angry, rightfully so, like, people shouldn't be using that form of birth control, you know what I mean? And, like, and then it turned into this, to now the way too far the other way. And now it's almost like you're trying to like prove us wrong or something. That's why I say it's absolutely evil. They're trying to like do everything they can to divide and conquer all of us. Yoder, you saw that about the baby. It's so sad. And this poor child probably might not have a great life themselves. And I just think that's so incredibly sad. Okay, I missed some comments. Um, you're a silly guy that comments. Yoder said that's an opinion, not slander, freedom of speech, and feels no intent to harm anyone. Diamond, same girl, same. I've never been diagnosed, but mostly am. Yes, I think especially at our age, we've been around enough other people and lived enough life to know we're not typical, right? We're not the same as a lot of people. Yoda, that was Skipper videos. I think of Aaron crying. You babble a lot, but I love it. You're not as fast now as you used to be. Thank you. Well, that's good. I'm glad. When I listen to myself, I do speed it up because I'm not going to spend like an hour listening to myself. You know what I mean? So I'm like, when Mr. Carey, yep, I remember that video. So am I right though? Wasn't it like they were talking about Titus's past aggressions and somehow Aaron ended up like crying about it? Probably, but I'm sure it triggered something in him. And men are allowed to cry. I don't mean that like at all. Like I want men to feel safe being emotional around me, but it's interesting that he is obviously so emotionally invested himself in Titus. Like, uh, yeah. He popped up in my feed way back also. Oh, so this is something that just popped up in my head. Gosh, over the place. Soft White Underbelly. Oh, I forget his name. What is the name of that guy? You guys know what about the photographer guy, the California guy? If there was a person, a state personified, he is literally the walking personification of California. No offense to anybody from California. He's a walking personification of like LA stereotype Hollywood, California. Not a lot of California. California is awesome and beautiful, and there's so much more to it than the Holly weird crap. Okay, so I Mark Latis, yes, that is right. Jay Collins, thank you. Mr. Carey, Jay Collins said Mark Latis, and he's right. Or she, I'm sorry, Jay Collins, I don't know. You're right. They're right. So I saw recently he had this girlfriend he met when she was 19 years old, and she recently passed away from an OD at the age of 22. She had a 3-year-old child. And he's talking about how they had the best relationship ever. Oh, it made me so sick. No, I don't believe in that at all. I think in the history of time, has there been a 19 and a 50-year-old that genuinely fell in love out of the billions and billions of people who have ever lived? Okay, I can wrap my mind around that, but it's probably in like a much smaller community where there is a much there's fewer people around to even choose to fall in love with. You know where I'm going with that? Like in those kinds of communities way back where the population was a lot fewer. Like I understand the age gaps more so than like literally a quarter of women giving birth were passing away giving birth and crazy statistics like that. It makes more sense, right? So I think this is all really interesting. Once again, all in my opinion, supposedly, allegedly. Yeah, I talk about my past. Like I've been around that type of lifestyle where it's the young girls and the older men with money, and they're always doing drugs. I'm not even gonna say supposedly, allegedly. Those girls are on substances. They're always on substances. And that man, in my opinion, knew that. He knew it. I mean, I think he found her interviewing her about her drug use. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but like he knew it. And he's a predator and he took advantage. And as if the necrophile thing wasn't enough. Yeah, he did content on the Whitakers. I think that he exploited them and like I mean, I think he probably elevated their lives in a certain and you have to acknowledge that, but the way is, like, just kept going over and over and over, just, like, make more and more content, just I don't like that. In an alternate universe, 19-year-old me would marry my 50-year-old sugar mama, guy said. Oh, that's funny. Yep, the inbred family, Yoder, yes, that's right. So, okay. Anyways, I just wanted to say that, like, I just thought that that was interesting and sad, and I hope she rests and found some peace. And I think it says a lot about him and his character. Okay, you guys might not have heard me say this. I think I said it like a year ago. He took this video down, but he interviewed a necrophile. If you don't know what a necrophile is, it's somebody who takes advantage of unalived bodies, like for pleasure. And this necrophile talked about how a woman played a video for him where she was unaliving children, and he laughed. And Mark was like, because that's what you do when you're a freaking demon freak, evil fucker that is interviewing people and taking advantage of the worst time in their lives. You laugh, you chuckle at a man talking about seeing children being unalived. supposedly, allegedly, that was a story, and he quickly turned the comments off. Because me and my husband were, like, fans. We, like, watched every video at this point, and this is when we still lived in Indiana, I remember. And, last time I looked, which was a few years ago, somebody had made a reaction to it, and it was a very small channel, but I don't know if that's still up, but the video itself is completely down. He is evil. Evil men prey on young, vulnerable women. And that's something, once again, the internet seems to be like pushing more. And it also kind of plays into what I talked about, but in a high value, in order to be a high value woman, you are often groomed in a way anymore to like want to seek out a high man to get, to be a stay at home girlfriend, whatever the F that is, to a rich man, until he finds somebody else that he likes more. Mr. Carolini, he didn't Whitaker's money last year, I believe. Yeah, that's why I said, gosh, you guys, I'm so sorry. I feel like I think I need to take like a quick bathroom break as I was drinking this tea. I don't know if you can tell I was outside gardening a lot. So, like, my sinuses and my throat are all scratchy and stuff, and I'm so excited. It is one of the best feelings in the whole world when you have a 2-year-old bed or even older. If you had a bed you established a year or longer ago and you go to dig in the dirt and it's all loamy and oh, and it's like perfect and the more you dig, it's like black, loamy, beautiful, fluffy dirt, ready to plant anything in. I love that feeling so much, and that happened a lot today, so it's things like that that I might never make 80,000 or $100,000 a year. Oh, and something else I wanted to touch upon is, like, how many of these people that make all that money that we think have, like, a lot more than us that are, like, in debt, that are living paycheck to paycheck just like you and I, but they are making 8 to $10,000 a month, and they're still living paycheck to paycheck, like, uh honestly, I sincerely would rather have a lower income, and I know people are gonna be like, "Oh, you're just, like, saying that to just" between, like, going into debt to get which I would go into debt to get some degrees. I'm not, like, faulting anybody for doing it, but personally myself, I don't wanna get into any student loan debt any more than I already have, and, um, to have to pay all these payments and then, like, to get a bigger, nicer house because you do have the home, but you just have more money going to the interest on the mortgage payment and bladder, no infections needed. Yeah, I do wanna stay on here, so I'm just gonna mute it. I'll be right back. Okay, can you hear me now? My dress is, like I don't think you guys could see anything. This dress is, like, a little short, like, I wouldn't wear it out, I just wear it to bed. So, I started to talk about earlier thank you, Jay Collins. I was reviewing the court footage, and it's like, these are things that I'm telling you guys, I think one day soon needs to be a channel where people need to see this for themselves. When I saw that thing, like lighting a fire under me, making me apprehensive in any way at all, like it's the exact opposite, actually. It's like literally the opposite. You're gonna try to say somebody's slandering you or defaming you when I'm doing this, talking to a screen. Like I'll use your own words against you maybe. Supposedly, allegedly, I mean, or some other person might in a clip channel that shows these things, like the court footage when people that can't seem to wrap their mind around this person did these things, stories said, "Mr. Carey, it sure was. Worst of all, my boyfriend said I should have taken him up on it so he could cash him. Also, I dumped him after that." Oh, I missed when I was 19, I got propositioned by an elderly man who had to be at least 70 years old. He promised to put me up into a penthouse and buy me anything I wanted, yet Dory said that. Yes, it is so sad. Like, wow, it's just so sad to me when I see women falling for that, and you're in like, I consider myself the prime of my life now in my 30s, like, but, then I see women, in their 20s, and I'm like, "Oh, like, you have your whole life ahead of you. You're, like, in your youth. You should be concentrating on you and building your life. It will do nothing good." That kind of situation. Well, no. They're just gonna pull the rug out from under you whenever they wanna use it to control you, like, there there's nobody ever made a career off of being, like, a rich girlfriend. You might think they have, but no, they're, like, constantly working for it and, doing all sorts of things. But it's a really pushed upon people now, and like I mentioned, there's, like, this stay-at-home girlfriend lifestyle even where it's, like, a competition, and people at the same time will be like, "Oh, nobody wants to work." Well, it's because it's so freaking hard to just get by in most places, and I think there's, like, that and how easy it can be to make money online. We're at this really weird time in society where, like, it's interesting, and I think a lot of things are gonna get taken over by AI in the next few years, um, and I said this a while ago, I said, "I think the medical system's gonna be one of the first career fields to be taken over by AI, because wouldn't it be easy to just put your symptoms into a computer? The nurses, a nurse assistant, they take your blood pressure and all that jazz anyway, and then put all that into something, and it'll probably be more accurate than most doctors who tell us women 90% of the time it's anxiety, no matter what we say, it's just anxiety. Anxiety. That woman that we're talking about earlier who, bless her heart, like, became brain dead was because she went to a hospital complaining about a headache, and it was blood clots, and she was a Black woman, so that's a double whammy. You're a woman, you're a Black woman on top of that, they're not gonna listen to you even more so, and it's really sad. Dory, guy that comment said, "Dory, when you're desperate, you'll do just about anything." And, Dory said, "I was never that desperate, thank God." Yes, and that's the thing that is so sad. Nobody does that has a better option, right? Like, Cardi B, the rapper, she'll, like, talk about how much she loved to strip. She would never strip now just for the heck of it. She would never strip just for fun. No woman would ever do any kinda sex work or be, a sugar babe, which is glorified prostitution in my opinion. No woman would ever do that has better options, that has a nice savings account, that has parents that will help her if she needs it. Like, that's the truth. And that's why it's an imbalance of power and it's wrong. And when there is no fair exchange for a woman's youth, time, and energy when it comes to money. As much as we want to try to make that an even fair thing, it's not. And that is why these women have to drug themselves so much. They do. It's sad. It's a sad situation. And when I see the young girls attempting to or making, a career off of those kinds of things online, I think it's really sad. It's a sign of the fall of Rome, the fall of our Rome. And I don't mean that towards the girls either. I mean that because it isn't all that online stuff now, it's becoming, like, more profitable than freaking, like, oil in the medical field or something crazy like that. Like, it's like the people that sign up for the OnlyFans need to stop it. You need to stop giving your money to these people. Need to, you know we need to stop that industry by, like, quit giving your money to them. It's like shows how men they want to provide, they want to control, or both. I can't figure out which one it is because why wouldn't you just go get it for free? It's because you want to feel like you're, like, giving something to this woman. It's so weird to me. Okay. Am I breaking up a lot to everybody? And is that any better? Yoder, my dad got laid off at 42-ish due to the new fresh young kids. He tried jobs at McDonald's, Pizza Hut, anything. He was turned down because, he was a CNC programmer. They said he quit because he's smarter. That's too bad. Yeah, Going back into the workforce in my mid-30s, it's like it is humbling. You see everybody like I said, I have people on my line well, my 17-year-old isn't there anymore. People from the age of, like, 22 to 70 working in a factory, 10 hours on their feet, and I think that's commendable, right? Anybody that gets up and goes to work to provide for themselves and their family, like and you're gonna say that's low value? That's high value. If anything, it's, like, extra high value because they're doing it, it's important, and they're not getting a ton of money. The incentive is well, my incentive is great benefits, and that's not a lot of people's incentives, unfortunately. But, often the incentive is it's nearby, it's just it fits into our lifestyle. It floors me. That's why I made the video about that Chris North guy, like or what's his last name? Talking about factory workers, like, why would you wanna be a builder when you could be a thinker? Him and his wife are doing IVF now, and I sincerely, like, wish them the best, but once again, that's what I was talking about. You do it perfectly, wait your whole life or wait until it's just right to have your baby. You might not be fertile at that point. It's like we just can't win. We can't win as women. We really can't. Oh, I sound like a robot sometimes. Is it any better or is it still bad? Guy that comments story, that's the playbook. You get a girl to love you and she does just about anything for you. Yoda, um, are you talking about your dad committed suicide a few months after that? I'm so sorry, Yoder. Yeah, and was that how old were you when that happened? I meant my dad would never stoop to SEX or bad things, a humiliated job of sort. Yeah, right, and well, I'm glad it's better. I'm probably not gonna be on here, like, a super long amount of time from now on, but yeah, I had a friend whose dad did that outside her house when we were, like, in our 20s. I'm really sorry, that's the kinda thing it's to get over, I'm sure. Guy that comments, "It would make my blood boil hearing stories about the guy was who thought everyone had a soulmate." I don't believe in soulmates. I do believe that there are people who are, like, destined to be in our lives, but I don't believe there's, like, one person for you know? I think that there I think I was supposed to be with my husband, but at the same I think that there it's possible I could have married somebody else, maybe? You know what I mean? Like, free will, of course, but I don't know, it's hard to explain. I just don't believe in the soulmate. I think it's you're putting a lot on somebody calling them your soulmate. I'm talking too much about that. So, let's talk a little bit more about this court footage. When Titus sent a letter to the attorney, I guess Jeff's attorney, he burnt the edge of the letter, like, around the paper, the edges, it was burnt. Who does that? Who does that? And I mentioned this in a video that I did keep up still, but I just feel like that's not in a video that I kept up. And the lawyer and him were going back and forth talking about, "Did you burn this?" And he's, like, trying to skirt around it, and he ends up saying, "Yes," and then the lawyer was like, "Okay, so you burnt the evidence," and he's like, "No." And he really shines, like, his stubbornness, and the same lawyer asking him, "Do you consider yourself" and Titus keeps saying, "Well, do you judge a tree?" And he's, like, interrupting, he's like, "No." The judge says, "Yes or no, answer his question." And Titus still won't say yes or no. He's like, "I have dreams sometimes that are true, and sometimes they're not." And the lawyer goes, "So you consider yourself to be a prophet, just not a very reliable one?" That's that would be a great YouTube Shorts, right? Somebody needs to put this out there. And they really think people have affected them by, like, just, like, talking about the way they've talked about it. But let's be real, they don't am I right? Because I don't watch all their content. Titus doesn't bring up the getting nude with kids stuff, like, circumcising his crotch in front of a kid stuff, right? He doesn't bring that up on his channel anymore. I think they've tried to, like, wash themselves clean of that, but they know how bad that is. So if they count it as slander that, like, other people are still bringing it up, it shows how dense they are. And yeah, I think that it's great that they're, bringing up slander and defamation means they want more money, and it's so hard to use YouTube as a reliable, verifiable source of income and to yeah, I can't use GoFundMe's, which I'm pretty certain last year it was against GoFundMe's terms of service to have multiple fundraisers for the same thing, okay? I'm just pretty sure, but I'm not 100%. But I did find something that's like, it's okay now. It's okay to do that, which I think is really interesting. And I don't think that it's very ethical, especially when you run a ministry of all things and none of your GoFundMe's. This is our GoFundMe for like, our like women and children shelter. This is our GoFundMe for, our summer vacation Bible study. Like it's not like that at all. This is our GoFundMe for me, me, myself, me, mine, me. Like, oh, another lawyer. Um, Yoder, my goodness, that's a legal insane threat. Who does that? I got friends that are witches and they say fire represents setting a spell or something it ought to be accomplished. Oh, so you're friends with, do they consider themselves witches or Wiccans? Because just recently I saw people talking about like how not all witches are Wiccans, and I was confused by that. I'm like, I thought all people that call themselves witches practice Wicca, right? Or like, I guess you can do whatever you want when it comes to that stuff. But yeah, it didn't work. I So I said I don't like believe in a lot of that stuff, but I do kind of carry some superstitious like beliefs in me. I do like imagine myself surrounded by like a globe of golden light, like in a protection sort of way. And I do that with like my house and my kids and my pets and stuff. And that's something I learned when I was trying to learn how to like detract the negative bad stuff when I felt like I was attracting it. But, I mean, I'm not saying that's like being a witch or being Wiccan or whatever, but I feel like it doesn't fall in line with being Christian either. I don't believe in soulmates because I know I'm dying alone. Oh, guy that comments, "Well, we all die alone," but the good news is, I believe that we won't be alone after we pass, though.